She'd actually just basically delivered a baby on the motorway. So as soon as I heard the words 3 centimeters, I thought, oh my goodness, they're gonna send us home. And that actual second, it was like something off a movie. My waters went, and I was like, hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another video. Tonight's video is going to be my labour/birth story on the birth of my son. This was a really requested video, so if you're interested, let's get on with it. Okay, so for this video, not gonna lie, I have 2 essentials. I've got a huge drink because I think I'm gonna need it, and I've also got some notes on my phone because although it was literally only 3.5 weeks ago, it feels like forever ago that I actually gave birth. It's Wednesday today when I'm filming this video, and on Friday will be 4 weeks since I had my little boy. My little boy who is called Roman. If you haven't been watching the videos, you won't know, but I gave birth 3.5 weeks ago. And honestly, when I tell you it was the most magical experience of my life, believe it or not, it was, honestly, it was incredible. And I just want to quickly say before I do get started, obviously this is my birth story, and I'm very conscious that when I was pregnant, everybody liked to tell me their horror, I want to say horror stories, but their birth story, because that might not be a horror story to them, but quite negative views around giving birth, and everyone would tell you how much it was going to hurt. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna sit here and tell you the complete opposite. So it's my opinion, it's my birth story. I have only had 1 baby, so you might ask, do you want 4 babies? My husband Jake is not so sure. But when I talk about this, I might be sat here in 5 years' time telling you about baby number 2 or 3 or 4, if I get my own way. And I might be saying something completely different, but based on my first experience, this is what this video is about. So throw it back to basically 3.5 weeks ago, actually. So on the Tuesday, I was 40 weeks pregnant, which is classed as full term. If you know pregnancy, you're classed as that's your due date. So that was on the Tuesday. And then on the Wednesday, I had booked a sweep, which is just like the midwife does it, and basically she just kind of separates the membrane from your cervix. I think that's right. Kind of like people told me that was going to hurt, but that also didn't hurt. So I had that done on the Wednesday at 1:30 in the afternoon. And it was a really sunny day, and I was just sunbathing. I'd sunbathed the day before because I just didn't really have that much energy towards the end. As much as I was trying to still be active and stuff, I didn't really have loads of energy, so I was just sunbathing. So we were sat in the garden when we got back, and it was about 4:30 actually. After the sweep, I went to the toilet, and there was quite a lot of it was called a show coming away, which was really normal, and I was like, this is really good signs, etc, etc. I don't want to go into too much gory details, but also that is the detail. Anyway, about 4:30 I was in the garden, and I had to get my birthing ball down in the garden because the cramps were really starting. And when I say I'm gonna keep calling these cramps, I'll explain, because it was just a crampy feeling, then it would go off. So it was all of a sudden you'd get a really tight cramp, and your tummy would be oh, killing. Then you'd have to it would go. It would not last very long. So that was Wednesday at 4:30, and that continued basically all of Wednesday night, which is such an exciting thing. I'm just getting my notes up. It is really exciting because you know something's coming, but it's really unfamiliar because you've never had this, and you're well, when do you go to the hospital? No one tells you when to go to the hospital. They say you'll just know, which I'll go into a little bit more. So that was all night Wednesday, and I managed that night to get to sleep at 11:30, and I slept until 2:30, and then all of a sudden at 2:30, so that was the Thursday morning technically, I was woke up with horrendous cramps. And I was thinking to myself, you know what, I haven't even really finished my hospital bag. It was done, but it just needed for example, this needed to go in empty. What else I need to put in? I needed to put trying to think what else really. I think maybe a few more pairs of knickers and stuff, just really daft things, which I had a list of. Oh, and a plug for my phone, a power socket to plug the USB in for my iPhone charger. Stupid stuff like that, which I had a list. So at 2:30 I got up, Jake was still in bed, and I just got like my hospital bag sorted. If you've watched the vlog, you'll probably have seen that, because I was just sat in my pajamas with my eye mask on the top, like still like just preparing, because I thought you just don't know. Anyway, it got to about I think it was probably about 3:30, and to be fair, because I'd been having cramps all day and like all night, I hadn't really felt the baby move much, and that was the only time in my pregnancy where I was a bit worried, thinking I've not felt this baby, but I think it was probably because the pain had started. So I said to Jake, I haven't really felt the baby, I think we should just go in and get checked, because I was really kind of worried, and like I say, I had like a really horrible feeling about it because I hadn't felt it much. So we went to Durham Hospital and went to the pregnancy assessment unit, and she monitored the baby, and the baby was absolutely fine. The heart rate was normal. It was obviously just because I'd had cramps that I couldn't really feel it, but that was like 4 a.m. So we must have got back about 5:30 in the morning on the Thursday morning from the hospital, and we came to bed again. I couldn't sleep. And I just like lay there tossing and turning, and the cramps were coming every sort of, I don't know, like, I don't even remember the timings, but they were coming and then they were going. And that was really important to remember, that they would come and it would be like quite horrible, the pains, if I'm honest. And then they'd go, and it was like, whew, you could breathe again, but you knew they were coming back. So it was just such a mind game. And the midwife at the hospital, when we'd check baby's movements, she had said, you're in like, I think she said it was like slow labour. I think that's what she said. So that was like slow labour, and I was thinking, oh my god, this could go on for days, which it honestly could have, and it kind of had, because it had gone on from the 4:30 on the Wednesday afternoon, and that was like 12 hours later, and I was having like these pains. And then obviously, so anyway, the Thursday all day basically we just stayed around the house, or did go for a little walk out and about, and just kind of really had to kind of get on with it. But like, it was so hard, and it was such a mind game, because you just didn't know when it was actually going to like really be the real deal. And I would, hand on my heart, say that was the hardest bit of the whole pregnancy and whole labour, was that Wednesday afternoon, evening, and the Thursday full day, because you're waiting for it to really start, but you don't know. You're thinking, is it gonna, am I gonna last days? You just don't know. Or I didn't know. So anyway, Thursday went for a walk, and then Thursday afternoon, kind of the contractions had really like amped up, and I was having like baths. I was like pushing off the walls, and I was getting out the bath, pushing off the side of the bathroom walls, because the pain was just so much. I was like on FaceTime with my mum, and it was just like, this is never going to end, is how I felt. But I kept saying to myself, like, you can do this. And honestly, I was like, in my head, I was like so strong. I was like, you've got this. It just means you're going to meet the baby soon. Anyway, so Thursday night came, and Jake fell asleep, went to sleep, because he, bless him, I felt so bad on Jake, because he was really helpless, because he couldn't do anything for me to help, but also he needed to sleep, and he could sleep, so he should have. So that day we just chilled, and then on the night he went to sleep, and honestly, I didn't sleep that whole day, by the way, can I just say. I maybe had like 30 seconds on and off, like nap, 30-second nap, because as soon as a pain came, I was like woken up. So it was like about 12 o'clock, and I was timing the contractions on an app on my phone called Freya, which I would really recommend. It was amazing. Was it called Freya? I think it was. Let me just double check, but I do think it was called Freya. And it was all part of the hypnobirthing. Was it called Freya? Have I made that up? No, it is called Freya. Yeah, so it's all part of like the hypnobirthing book kind of thing that I read, which I would absolutely recommend, because it's all about like your breathing. And so I was breathing through all these pains for these days, and on that night, like I say, I keep going back and forwards, but at 12 o'clock I started like realizing these pains were coming on thick and fast. So this was like the Thursday night going into Friday morning. So I was timing them, and it had said this a few times in the days leading up. It said like you're in active labor, because the contractions were like going, they were like certain minutes apart for different times and stuff, basically. So it kind of said you're in established labor. So this got to like 1:30, and I said to Jake, Jake, I need to ring the hospital. Like, I need to go. Like, I just feel like I felt so out of control because I just didn't know what was happening. And anyway, so we rang the hospital about, I'd say 1:30, 1:45, and we were going to Durham Hospital, which is where I was going to give birth, where we'd went the day before for the pregnancy assessment unit, and where we've had like two of the 12-week scan and the 20-week scan. And on the phone, they said to us, okay, so we're on divert because the hospital's so full, we're on divert to Darlington. So Darlington to our house is like half an hour away. And we did actually know that this was a thing because the night before when we went in to get the reduced movements checked, they'd said, oh, if you'd came like half an hour ago, you would have had to go to Darlington because we've been on divert and we've been so busy. So anyway, they said that on the phone and I immediately panicked. I'm not going to lie, I did. And I just thought to myself, like, oh my goodness, like this was not what I'd expected. And obviously that is a massive spanner in the works when you think you're going to a certain hospital and then you're going to have to drive half an hour away to a different hospital you've never been to. And I said to Jake, what do you think? And he was like, well, you'd rather go to a hospital that they can fit you in and they can see you than a hospital that's overran and don't have room for you. And I was like, yeah, true. And so anyway, I got my head around it and we drove to Darlington, which took us about like 20 minutes actually. It was because it was so quiet, the roads of course, because this was like in the middle of the night, Friday morning, early hours. And it was so strange because I had a few little contractions, I'm going to call them now, because obviously I was thinking they were cramps, but there were contractions in the car. And honestly, I had my seatbelt on, I was holding the handrail and I was like lifting off the chair. It was crazy. And I thought to myself, this is like the worst car journey ever. Anyway, we got to Darlington Hospital and I'm not gonna lie, from that second that I got out that car, it was just meant to be, I think. Like, this is so crazy what I'm gonna say, I think. So we basically pulled up and we left everything in the car because we just didn't know whether we'd be staying or going. We just didn't know what would happen. And then we went to like the entrance and there was an ambulance pulled up and there was some paramedics and I knew one of the paramedics and we started to speak. And you know when you just think, wow, like that was crazy because all of a sudden I just felt at ease. Like I'd seen a familiar face and I think that familiar face just put my guard right down. And she was like, oh, I'll take you to the pregnancy like assessment unit / labour ward. And anyway, she works for Durham like hospital paramedics, I think. She'd had to go to Darlington to give she'd actually just basically delivered a baby on the motorway on the A1 because the hospital we were going to and this other lady was going to was on divert. So she'd actually just delivered a baby on the motorway. It was just so surreal. So anyway, she took us up to the pregnancy assessment ward. And we went in and we actually went to the labour ward and they were like, oh no, they're expecting you at the pregnancy assessment unit. So we went in and we met this lovely, lovely, lovely midwife. And she basically like put me on the monitor, she monitored the baby and then she did like an internal check to tell me like what was going on. So basically when I got there, I was 3 centimetres dilated and this was probably about 3:30. And this is not obvious, but they like you to be 4 centimetres, otherwise they'll send you home. So as soon as I heard the words 3 centimetres, I thought, oh my goodness, they're gonna send us home. And she was like, look, I'm not gonna say we're gonna send you home because you've came all this way, so I'm not gonna send you home. I'm gonna go and speak to someone. So she went and spoke to someone and said, look, you can stay here in this little room. It was tiny and it was just like this hard bed. It wasn't like a hospital bed or anything. It was like an assessment unit kind of thing. And she said, or you can go on the ward, but your husband wouldn't be able to come with you on the ward. I was like, we'll stay here for now. Because obviously she said, if I send you home, something could happen in the next half an hour of you getting home. So she was so nice and it was really quiet. So I think she was like, obviously happy to keep us there. Anyway, the contractions did actually slow down. And I don't know whether that's because my body felt, I don't know, like, I felt really relaxed being in the hospital, being under someone's like care. That's all I felt like. And it's just like, I felt more in control being at the hospital. Anyway, so she said to me, I'll check you again in a few hours and we'll go from there. In the meantime, our hospital, Durham, where we were meant to go, had reopened and she came and said, look, if you want to go to Durham Hospital, they're reopened and you can go there. In the back of my mind, I thought, I cannot get back in that car and go half an hour away. I just couldn't. It was just freaking me out. But anyway, we decided, me and Jake said, this was like 5 o'clock. We were like to-ing and fro-ing for like 10-15 minutes of like, what should we do? Should we go to should we go back to Durham? And Jake was like, the thing is, if you then have to stay in, I'll have to go all the way home and come all the way back. Like, it just felt really far, and I didn't want to be left in Darlington with my new baby overnight, because that's kind of what you think, even though it was really early in the morning and that night was so far away. So we decided we'll go back to Durham. I opened the door to where the lady was sat on reception, because she just left us to it. I kid you not, I said, we're gonna go back to Durham, and that actual second, it was like something off a movie. My waters went, and I was like, oh my god, I think my waters have just gone. And all of a sudden I was just like soaking, and she was like, yeah. And I said, they're not stopping. She was like, yeah, they're not gonna stop. And then all of a sudden it was like fate, because that moment, I tell you, was taken out of our hands of, you're gonna go to back to Durham. And I was like, I cannot get in that car. She said we could have, but I couldn't have got back in the car, because the pain did initially like really ramp up. Like, them contractions came on thicker and faster. So I went back in the room, I turned the TENS machine up. By the way, if you're gonna give birth, get a TENS machine. It was incredible. I used it for them Wednesday and Thursday and in labour, and I had it on like level 10, the highest you could have it, and it was amazing. So I turned up the TENS machine, and then basically 5:20 came, and then the contractions just like ramped up, and then it got to about 7:30. No, I'm lying. We must have had like 10-15 minutes in there, and it was then like, it felt like it was like loads later. It wasn't, but we stayed there, and then she was like, I'm gonna go and see if we can get you on the labour ward now, into the delivery suite. Sorry, not the labour ward. I'm gonna see if I can get you in the delivery suite, because then you can get the gas and air. And I was like, this is amazing. So because my waters had gone, it was all like happening. So she went in and she was like, right, let's take you through to the delivery suite. So we went through. I had a contraction in the middle of the hallway, which it wasn't very far, but it was just vivid in my mind. Let me just see my notes to make sure I'm telling this all how it happened. I think I am. Yeah. So we went to the delivery suite, and then, so at 8 AM, I knew that the midwife we'd been with, who was amazing, I can't remember her name, but she was so nice. She was going to be finishing, because at 8 AM, all the midwives changed and night shift was over. So basically, went to the delivery suite, and then until 8 AM, we had a midwife and a student midwife who were just like monitoring the baby, monitoring me. I got the gas and air, and we got like settled into the room, and it was pretty chilled, if I'm honest. I was just kind of learning how to use the gas and air and like all the breathing and stuff, and yeah, it was all good really. But I had to stay on the monitor. So they put like this monitor on your tummy, and I had to stay on that actually through my whole labour. So that's just because they were measuring, like monitoring the baby. And I think that comes from me going in with reduced movements the night before. I feel like they just wanted to be really sure of everything and make sure the baby was okay. So anyway, we're at 8 AM, the new midwives came in. So a midwife came in who was my midwife, and another student, and they did like a handover, and I was listening, and it was like just talking through what had happened and like so far. And then basically at 8 AM, this midwife, I'm not going to say her name, but she was, honestly, I haven't stopped thinking about her since. So she was the midwife who delivered the baby, and they just took over, and that was it. Like, it was just 8 o'clock. It was like contractions were coming thick and fast. A doctor came round and just asked if I had any questions, and it was just kind of surreal. Like, I was definitely in, like, it was having an out of body experience, because I could hear what was going on, but I was just concentrating so hard on like the breathing and all the contractions and everything. And quite quickly I felt like I needed to push, and I felt like I needed to do a poo, and she was like, you don't, it's the pushing. So this was obviously like 10, maybe 10 AM, and so I started to push, and I think I only actually pushed for like 40 minutes on my app, it says. And honestly, it was crazy. Like, it just, I honestly didn't think the contractions hurt. The hardest part, like I said, was them cramps contractions the day before, because I didn't think anything was coming from it. It just felt like I was having these horrible pains, which obviously I was dilating, but it was just awful. And then obviously I went so quickly when I got, like when my waters broke, all of a sudden it just all happened so quick. And the pain, I definitely wouldn't say there was much, and I think because I had the gas in it was really taking the edge off. I did miss out. I'd been taking paracetamol, because that's kind of all you can take, on the Wednesday and the Thursday, and when I got to the pregnancy assessment unit after my waters went, she gave me paracetamol and codeine. I've never taken codeine, I don't think, in my life, so maybe that took the edge off a little bit, but I don't know. So then I had like obviously gas and air, which was insane. And then I was just literally pushing, and the babies, oh, actually this is something I should mention. So I was pushing and the head midwife came in, and so there was like my midwife, the student, and the head midwife, and then Jake. And they were kind of like, it was, I think it was a bit of a mind thing. So they were like, Paige, if you don't push, I seen the scissors come out and the tray come out, and I thought, oh my goodness, they're going to try and do, is it called a lapisiotomy? I think it's called, could be wrong, where they cut you. I was thinking, over my dead body are you doing that? So in my head I was like, no way they're going to cut you, no way they're going to cut you, no, they're not. So just the head midwife said, Paige, look, if you don't get the baby's head out on the next go, we'll have to do a lapisiotomy. I think it's called that. I hope I'm not getting it wrong. I'll write it on the screen, whatever it is. Anyway, so I was like, no way. So then on the next round of contractions, they did give me the injection in case they had to do that. But by that time, I was like, no way. So they'd give me the injection and numb that area. And then she was like, right, we'll give you one more go. And anyway, I didn't need cutting or whatever, the lapisiotomy. But it obviously then the head came out, and then it was just so quick and surreal, and like the pain, you know what, I actually liked the pain, and I know that sounds really weird, but I did, because when I was getting the contractions going back, it was like water was coming away, so there was like some sort of release, and something was happening with them contractions. The contractions the day before, nothing was happening apart from just excruciating pain, so all that water coming away just felt like relief. So basically, when obviously the baby came out, the plan was that Jake was going to tell me the sex, but he ended up holding the baby. The midwife gave him the baby straight away to hold, and I was the one who said, oh my god, it's a boy. Jake cut the cord. We did delayed cord clamping for like 7 minutes. I'd asked if we could do that. That's just basically where you don't cut the cord straight away, so that all the like goodness can get to the baby from the placenta, and it's finished up getting everything. And honestly, it was just surreal. They put the baby straight on me after Jake had like Jake gave the midwife the baby, and then she rubbed him down and everything, and then they give the baby to me, did skin to skin. And then I did have a 2nd degree tear, so they had to do like some stitches. So I was getting stitched up, the baby was lying on me, and then I was on the gas and air to try and take away the pain from the stitches. But to be fair, that didn't even hurt, because they did like a numbing thing, so that didn't even hurt. And it was just surreal. And then this was obviously, I give birth, that's not obvious, but I give birth at 11:02. That was the time he was born. And so I was getting stitched up, and then we just kind of, they did all what they need to do, like all the checks and stuff, and then they said, right, we'll go and get you the tea and toast. And they got Jake some tea and toast, and me and Jake just sat there with the baby and had tea and toast. And then I was like, I think we should ring my mum and dad, because I think they'll be really worried. At that point, I'd been so active on my phone until about 4 or 5 a.m. and then nothing, because I was just like, couldn't concentrate on anything else. So everyone had heard from me, and I was telling them what was going on, and then all of a sudden there was just nothing, so everyone would have been really worried. So we FaceTimed my parents, FaceTimed Jake's family, then my like big family group chat, my friends, and it was honestly amazing. And then basically it was just, it's crazy. This, I hope this happens for the 2nd baby, 3rd baby and 4th baby, but I literally, so then she was like, right, do you want to have a shower? Obviously you have to have a, like, I was so like sweaty, and there was just, yeah, you can imagine basically. So I went and had my first shower, and I'm not gonna lie, one thing that I really didn't think is how obviously much you bleed. So I was in the bathroom, it was quite big in this hospital, and there was like just blood dripping everywhere, and I was like, I can't, like, I had everything. I had the pads, I had the knickers, I had everything like that, but I just needed to get straight in the shower. But I obviously had to put things in different places, so there was just blood everywhere. And I had to have like a way that they, like, in like one of those bed pans, so that they can measure it and, excuse me, check it and stuff. So I did all of that, and then I had a shower, and not gonna lie, I did feel quite like weird on the when I was having the shower, and I actually sat down because it was like a little chair, because obviously I had been laid down just giving birth. It was all a bit much, and I hadn't really eaten much apart from tea and toast. So when I went back to the room after the shower, I got new fresh pajamas on and just like sat there and ate loads of snacks. The snack bag never came out until we'd given birth, thank God we had that though, because then we just ate snacks all afternoon. Didn't even really have that many, but yeah. And then they had already said, like, you only really have to stay in hospital for 6 hours, and because everything was good and I could literally, I'd had a shower, had a wee, all of that, the baby was fine, like all of that, she was saying like, you'll get out tonight. So we just had a lovely afternoon in the hospital. The midwives kept coming in and just like making sure we were okay, doing all the checks I needed to do. Obviously they like showed us how to like dress him and all of that. Showed me breastfeeding. I was asking loads of questions because I knew that we were getting out that night, and I wanted to know like everything that I thought I want to ask. I just asked, and like I think I rang the buzzer maybe twice just to double check some things, and I think that was the best thing, just being really curious and inquisitive, because obviously I knew by the time it was like the night time we're going to be home and I wouldn't have anyone to ask. Obviously you can ring and Google and all that, but I just thought, let's just ask while I'm here. So yeah, then basically at like 7 o'clock we got discharged, and we came home, got a pizza on the way home, and we were home, and my parents came over and met their grandson. So it was honestly, in my opinion, the most amazing, magical, phenomenal birth experience I think I've ever heard, because like I say, people do love to scare you. And I'm going to give myself credit, and I said this to myself, and I said this to Jake, and I've said this to everyone. I am actually so proud of how I did, because I do think a lot of it's in your mind. Of course, things go wrong that you can't control, but I was so open for anything to happen, because anything could have happened. One thing I have forgot to say as well, I really wanted a water birth, but because I was getting monitored and the baby was getting monitored through my tummy, they couldn't take me off the monitor until I had a clear reading, and it wasn't happening because I was contracting and moving a lot. They never got a clear reading, so they couldn't get us off the monitor to get me in the water pool. What's it called? Birthing pool. Couldn't get the words out. They couldn't get me off the monitor to get in the birthing pool. They did say at the very end, you can get in now, but I'd done all of the hard work, and it would just be to literally get in, to get wet, to push, to get out. So it wasn't really worth it. And by that time I was like happy just staying there. And yeah, so that, if you think I didn't have a plan, because I just didn't plan anything, I just would have loved a water birth, but it never happened. And because I hadn't set it up to being like, I have to have a water birth, it didn't bother me one bit. And I honestly think that would be my top tip. Don't plan it. Just go with the flow, go with the openest mind you can ever do, and have a really strong mind. Like, you know that the more the pain and all of that, the closer you are to meeting your baby. And it sounds so cliche, but like, it's true. And I kept saying to myself, you're going to meet your baby so soon. It was just so exciting, and I was just staying so strong in my head. And not gonna lie, I think I was pretty good at giving birth. And I never say I'm good at anything, but I was like, wow, I think you've just smashed that. Like, it was insane. Like, I would do it again tomorrow in a heartbeat. Like, I've got pregnant friends, I would do it for them, because I absolutely loved it, and I loved every second of it. The midwife was absolutely incredible. I cannot thank her enough. Like, she's obviously never gonna see this, but like, I filmed the whole thing, by the way. Obviously I've only put certain bits on YouTube, but I filmed the whole thing. When I tell you I was fully holding my camera tripod in that area, I was. The midwife was holding it, the student midwife was filming, Jake was filming. It was honestly hilarious. And actually, when I got a 7 centimeters the midwife said, she was like, well, normally it's 7 centimeters, people are screaming for more pain relief and you're just sat here taking selfies. And I was like, but I honestly think having my vlog, and I know you're gonna think I'm crazy when I say this, having the vlog kept me sane, because I knew, it's like when I went for a smear test, I knew that I wanted to tell people about my experience. So I think I had to be brave and be strong. Or I've just got a really high pain threshold, maybe. Jake didn't think I was gonna, and everyone was asking Jake like how I did afterwards, and he was like, honestly, she was amazing. And he said, here's me, people tell you childbirth is horrendous, hard, all of this throughout your life, and he's like, Paige made it look like a walk in the park. That was what he actually said. And he was like, I was thinking it'll put her off, she'll not want 4 babies. And he was like, nope, she wants 4 because she had the best experience. And sorry, excuse me. And honestly, that was how it went. I'd been talking for too long, so the camera just cut off, but it honestly was the best day ever. I hope I've not missed anything. I'm going to quickly just check my notes. Yeah, I've got on the bottom 2nd degree tear, stitches, tea and toast. That's funny, which I've mentioned all of them. And the one thing I would say about the stitches is obviously they're just dissolvable, not disposable, geez. Dissolvable. So I haven't been able to have a bath yet, which I love a bath. I think they've all came out, but I just want to be sure. But like that didn't hurt, and I was like, you know, when people say, oh, I did tear, and that honestly, I didn't even feel it. Also, when people say about the ring of fire, even the midwife was like, it's gonna burn now, and it just didn't. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. But anyway, that is my birth story, and I'm gonna say it was a very, 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 very positive birth story in my opinion. It was truly unbelievable. Obviously our baby is so perfect. Roman, I keep saying baby, Roman is perfect. Like I say, he's nearly 4 weeks old, and like it's just crazy. And I definitely want to do more like of a little bit of a Q&A on like the newborn bubble, which I think I'll do when he is about 6 weeks, because it is a real emotional roller coaster, because obviously my hormones are everywhere. You're learning this new little person's routine. Well, I say learning a routine, trying to create a routine. The sleep deprivation gets you. As much as I say that the sleep deprivation gets you, I think for me it's probably more the hormones that get me, because the sleep I'm actually feeling like I'm dealing with quite well. I say that, but it's like the hormones, like the hormonal feelings of like just feeling done in and wrecked. Maybe it is a bit of the sleep. I think the sleep, the hormones, everything combined is hard, but honestly it is the best thing ever. And yeah, I had the most amazing pregnancy, I have to say. I loved it, and the birth it topped the pregnancy. So yeah, that was my birth story. I hope you've enjoyed. Obviously you probably can't imagine it, but when I'm saying it, I'm like literally reliving it in my mind, and it makes me so happy because I just loved it. But yeah, I'll do it again happily, and let's see what the next experience is like. Hopefully the same. And I have to say, I would want to go back to the same hospital because they were incredible, and I just can't thank them enough. They were insane. It's the same trust, like Darlington and Durham are the same trust, but obviously Durham was where it was full and Darlington's where we went. So they were amazing, and yeah, that is my birth story. Really hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much if you've made it to the end for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel, and of course I will see you in my next video.